So in the recent years of the NBA, there have been a new way of rebuilding, and it's a very intriguing one. In like the past 20 years, most teams rebuilded either from drafts or trades. But these teams usually had stars that were established. Let's talk about like the 2010s Miami Heat. They already had an established star in Dwayne Wade, and they got two more in Chris Bosh and LeBron James via free agency. Then you see Kobe Bryant's Lakers. They traded for Pau Gasol, got some great veterans, Ron Artest, and they won another two rings. And you can even say that for the Warriors of the 2010s. They built through the draft, they got a ring, and then they got Kevin Durant. Wow, they're already proven. But now the new way of rebuilding is actually having a younger core of players and then trading for a star with that young core. In the NBA draft, normally the worst teams get the number one overall pick, or like a rebuilding team gets the number one overall pick. For instance, whole like 2010s, Cleveland getting the first pick, Kyrie Irving, Anthony Bennett, Andrew Wiggins. They were rebuilding by that time and were not good. Philly getting the first pick, Markelle Fultz and Ben Simmons. They were not good. And even like the first pick Phoenix, when they got Ayton, not good. First pick Pelicans, Zion Williamson, they weren't too good. But in recent years, it has changed a lot. If you see in 2025, Cooper Flag went to the Dallas Mavericks. However, Dallas was actually a pretty solid team coming off the remnants of an Anthony Davis trade. They were trying to look for making the playoffs. Second overall pick went to the Spurs, who were also a great team. And they had a pretty solid young core already. But Dylan Harper to the Spurs just added fuel. And with the second apron, this is now how you rebuild. Because right now, with this young core, you don't pay as much. With this year's draft, it is very similar. You got the Washington Wizards, who drafted AJ DeBonsta first overall. And then you've got the Utah Jazz drafting Derek Peterson second overall. And both players are generational talents who probably look like they're going to be able to make an instant impact, just like what Cooper Flag did and Victor Wembanyama his first year. Both teams already have great young cores. For the Washington Wizards, they have Alex Sarr, who took a big jump last year after his rookie year, looking like a really good defender. His offense got more polished. You got Keyshawn George, who looks like a jack-of-all-trades forward. You also got players like Bilal Coulibaly, one of the great defenders in the league. Will Riley. You got Bub Carrington. Also, Trey Johnson, who was great his rookie year. And Cam Whitmore, who is only 22 and showed potential. So you already have this great young core with the Washington Wizards. But they are trying to fast forward their winning because right now it's the best place to get bigger contracts as all of their young core is making little money compared to what their value is. So you have a lot of cap space to use on bigger contracts. So last season, while they're tanking, this is where they traded CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert for Trae Young. And then they are traded for Anthony Davis. So they got two proven talents on bigger contracts. But this makes their team like pretty stacked. And you see this kind of with the Utah Jazz as well. Utah is building a great young core already. Keontae George. Lauri Markkanen is not young, but he is like a solid player that's just starting to get in his prime. You have Ace Bailey, who they drafted last year, showed great potential. Bryce Sensabaugh, Isaiah Collier, Kyle Filipkowski. You have all of these young talent that are pretty good. But then you also trade for a proven talent. They traded for Jaren Jackson Jr., who was a former Defensive Player of the Year. But then you also drafted Darren Peterson, very generational talent. And with these like younger players to contend, you also need some veterans on some friendly contracts. So you see players like for the Wizards, you see Chris Middleton, Justin Champagnie, traded for DeAndre Ayton. And then if you go to the Jazz, they got players like Yusuf Nurkic. They signed Josh Okogie, Jackson Hayes, all of these veterans. to complement their young talent plus the stars. And I think this is kind of going to be the new way of rebuilding because of the second apron and how expensive it is to get a bunch of veterans on the same team. You look at the Boston Celtics from a few years ago. They had Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday, Derek White, and Kristaps Porzingis, like a really good squad. However, they weren't young and they were all on big contracts. So once the second apron kicked in, they had to cut costs or else they would face some crazy consequences like a huge luxury tax, not being able to trade like multiple players in a trade, I believe. Their first round pick, if they're in the second apron more than like 2 years, is going to be immediately the 30th pick. So they had to trade Drew Holiday last year to the Blazers. They had to trade Kristaps Porzingis. And then they had to let go of Luke Cornett and Al Horford. So right now, what the Wizards are doing is trying to maximize their potential for getting these veterans with bigger contracts. Because once they have to pay for the younger stars, the veterans might be ending their contracts soon. So they're able to pay that. You know, they also get older, like Trae Young. Anthony Davis by then is probably going to be retired, or like he's not going to really be worth as much. So I believe this is how you contend now. You get some young talent that you drafted. I feel like with this new lottery system, it's going to be even better for some teams because it's a very flattened odds. So the first overall pick, second overall pick, third overall pick might not go to the worst teams. It might go to some teams that actually have some proven talent already. Basically, you have a batch of players on rookie contracts. So maybe there's like one generational talent you get from the lottery where you get lucky, and some other complementary rookie contracts that are pretty good players. Then you trade for one or two proven stars, and then you also sign players or make valuable trades to get some veterans on the team. And that's how you're able to win. The biggest example of this recently working is San Antonio kind of did this, and it's working. They got this young talent of Victor Wembanyama, Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper, and Carter Bryant, all on their rookie deals. And then they got some veterans like Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, Julian Champagnie, and Luke Cornett, all on pretty solid deals, like deals that aren't too much. And then they traded for a proven superstar in De'Aaron Fox. Now, they did not win the championship, but I feel like next year they have a really good chance to win the championship. It's going to be really hard to win now with like a veteran-led squad unless you take a big pay cut like Jalen Brunson did with the New York Knicks. And that's how they were able to get Mikal, OG, Cat, and all of the players and win the championship. But I like this new era. Parity is at an all-time high. You not even predict who's going to win a championship now. And any team can win a championship. We didn't predict the Knicks to win this year, but they did. We did not predict the Pacers to go all the way to Game 7 of the finals last year, but they did. We didn't predict the Spurs would go to the finals this year, but they did. So any team can now win, and I really like that a lot of teams are becoming more aggressive now. But yeah, that's basically it for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and we're out.